Welcome in. I'm excited to chat about the future. This is the closing keynote. And of course, we made you wait a little bit, but I'm going to make up for it, I promise. Now, in order to teach you what I'm going to teach you today, we do need to go back in time a little bit. And I want to let you know that I'm going to ask you to answer a lot of questions in the chat. It's going to be very interactive today. My first question for you is, do you know what movie this slide is from? If you know, then you're awesome, because I'm also a huge fan of Back to the Future. Now, I watched this movie hundreds of times, but there was one summer where I watched it at least 60 times because it was once per day for 2 months. Why did I watch it that often? Well, this was in 2008, and I had just gotten laid off from my job, my dream job as an architect. And unfortunately, I didn't have a plan B. I had everything laid out for me the way it was supposed to, but then in the Great Recession, I got the rug pulled out from under me, and I didn't know what to do. All I knew was I needed some comfort, and I found comfort in this movie called Back to the Future. And looking back, I kind of asked myself, well, why was it that movie in particular? I like a lot of movies. I'm a fan of a lot of different shows and TV and television programs. But this movie in particular, I think it gave me sort of an inkling that maybe one day there could be a time machine that I could get into, so I can go back into my past and maybe change some things around, because I wasn't in a happy place. Maybe I could have gotten a different job, or gotten a different degree, or went to a different school, or worked a little bit harder at my job to not get let go. Yes, many other people were getting let go too, but for me as an individual, it didn't feel great. And after 116 minutes, after every single time I watched it, I came back to reality and realized that, well, there was no time machine. There was nothing I could do about my past. And it wasn't until a couple months later, and some amazing support from my fiance, now wife, April, she taught me that, well, I'm writing my story right now, and the actions that I take today are what become the chapters of my life later. So I decided to get up off my butt and actually start a business. Now, I started a business in the architecture space, and it was called Green Exam Academy. And this is it right here. This was a website to help architects pass an exam. And it did pretty well. In fact, it changed my life. In about a year, I had generated over $200,000 from helping architects pass a very specific exam about green buildings and architecture. And it was at this point a lot of people started to ask me, how did you do that? How did you survive and even thrive in that economy? So I started a website called the Smart Passive Income Blog. And I know a lot of you have found this in the past, and this is what it originally looked like. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know tech or any of that stuff, and tech was hard back then. This evolved into something that looked a little bit more decent down the road. I had just had a son with my wife, and you could see him right there on the right-hand side. And I started to build this amazing community. A lot of comments on every single blog post. We're talking 2010, 2011 era at this time. Then the website became a little bit more designed, and I started to show up a little bit more. I started to get comfortable with putting myself out there. And lo and behold, today, if I were to show you this website, it's going to look a little different, because it's not about me anymore. It's about the entrepreneurs that we've been able to connect together. And thanks to Circle, and I've been a partner with Circle, I'm even an advisor for Circle now. It has created the opportunity with easy tech for all of us at SPI to bring our entrepreneurs together and support one another. And I cannot tell you just how grateful I am for the opportunity to use a tool like Circle to bring that community together. It's really created some incredible pieces of feedback that we've never gotten before. Even though I've made millions of dollars selling courses and all these one-off things, the community is now at the heart of what we do. We've changed our entire business model to be around bringing people together, creating a safe space where we can all nerd out with each other. And that's really what it's about, right? Having this common language, these common struggles, these common obstacles that we together can support each other with. And we just act as guides. We act as the sort of building and the architects of that building, if you will, that bring this community together and allow for amazing things to happen. And of course, the community is at the heart of it now. And we have tens of thousands of students who've come across our way in a very long time. So it's interesting, because when I think about when I first started, I felt very lonely. I didn't know where I was going. And it wasn't until I started connecting with other people in person and online that my life changed. And that's what we're trying to build here. Now, it's interesting because when you think about where we're at now as a society and kind of in the world, I was in Japan recently, and this is what the train looked like. It was everybody into their own devices. And a lot of people say, yeah, things have changed. It's very much all about the devices now and the technology. But when you look back into the past, things actually are kind of the same. Sure, the technology has passed, but the reason why we consume in the way we do it has not changed at all. And these things that were once novel, like remember selfies, remember this famous selfie? Well, they are things that have already been in existence for a while. Just the technology has become easier to do that. And so when we think about community, this is what the old school version of community might look like, right? And this still happens today in our own community. And I love this quote: people come for the content and they stay for the community. People come to this event because there's fried chicken, beans, and mashed potatoes, but we stay for the community and the people that we're together with, right? And so what's beautiful now is online, we have the ability to create a space like this. And the technology allows us to bring these communities together and have and share these moments. And people might come in for what we have to offer them, but they stay because of the people that are in there with them. So my goal today is to share with you how we can use these human and innate root level qualities that we have and that our audience has to stick around no matter what. No matter the technology, no matter what's going on in the world, people always want to feel like they're a part of something. And that's what we need to focus on. And that's how we win no matter what happens in the future, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if we're going to get one thing happening here or one thing happening there, or technology changes or different social platforms come about. Humans want to connect with other humans. And that's really what this is about. And when it comes to serving our audience, I love to think about it in the shape of how can we create a fan out of somebody? How can we get them to not just consume our content, but want to come back for more? But not just that, how do they talk about us with others? And how do they think about us when we're not even prompting them to think about us, so that they can support us and we can support them and life is great, right? That's why we're here, to make the internet a better place. So I want to ask you, all of you here in the chat, what are you a fan of? You might already know and can see I'm a big fan of Back to the Future. I literally have like the shoes and the thing. It's part of my presentation. I'm kind of a nerd in that way. But what are you a fan of? I'm going to shout out some of you in the chat. I see JD has been to Japan. I'm a huge fan of Japan. I'm going back next year, actually next month, which is going to be really fun. I know a lot of you might be fans of certain animes, certain foods, certain artists and musicians, and there's a lot of different kinds of things that we can fall in love with. One of those bands is a band in a group that my wife has fallen in love with. And I always knew she was a fan of this group. And if you know the name of this group, you're welcome to share it in the chat. This is, of course, the Backstreet Boys, yes. And they are, in fact, still around. If you go to a Backstreet Boy concert today, there's a lot of 40-year-old women screaming off the top of their lungs. And sometimes one of those women is my wife. She still goes to their events and is a big fan. Now, what's really interesting is, like any baseball team, right, that you're a fan of, or sports team, there's always one player that kind of is your favorite. And if the Backstreet Boys were a sports team, this is the player that my wife is a big fan of, which is really interesting, right? This boy right here. Sorry, I was not on the slides. Nick Cannon. Nick, yes. He's literally the opposite of me. He's tall, blonde hair. I'm literally the opposite of that. But we all have our favorites. And I come to learn a lot about how April became a fan of this group. And it was interesting because a lot of the ways that she became a fan of this group are the same ways that people become fans of our brands. And again, we don't have to be an artist or a musician for that to really connect with people. We just have to provide something of value to them, which is what we're doing. And when you learn about the way that you become a fan of something, we can use that and do some amazing things with it, which is what we're going to talk about today. Now, like I said earlier, you know that I'm a fan of Back to the Future. And here's just a fraction of my collection. Just a fraction of it. But what's interesting is that the audience that I've built over time has come to know that I'm a fan of this through my work. And this was a piece of artwork from a guy named Ernesto, who put string on a wooden board with beeswax. This is a Mexican form of art form, and he was very moved by the work that we were creating and wanted to create this for me, which was pretty amazing. When you build fans, you have people that want to support you no matter what it is that you're coming out with. I had a book come out a few years ago, and Jeffrey here sent me this email. He said, "Hey, Pat, thanks for all you do. Heard you're publishing a new book early next year. I want to buy 20 copies for my friends and family. I don't care what it's about. Just need to know when it's coming out." Right? So that's amazing. Fans will also become habitually consuming your content, right? In a way where if you don't show up when you're supposed to, they might get mad at you. And that's great because they have inserted you into their life in one way, shape, or form. For example, this was a message I got when I was a day late with my podcast. I come out with my podcast on Wednesdays, and on Thursday, I hadn't come out with my show yet. And Steven says, "Where the blank is episode 112? Thanks, love your stuff, Steve." Right? And that's the cool thing. When you are regular, when you are consistent with your content, amazing things can happen in terms of the audience that you're building and what they can come to expect from you. And then finally, of course, like I said, this is about the people, the fans that show up, the fans that listen every day, the fans that become a part of your community. And I've been so blessed to have fans from all ages come and join me in my journey with helping entrepreneurs, from hundreds of people in a room to just a couple fans that I meet at a coffee shop. It's an amazing experience. And the ability to do this in a more digital fashion online through tools like Circle has become just an absolute blessing. And that's why we're here today. So in order for us to understand fans, I got to introduce something to you called the pyramid of fandom. So this is the sequence of events that people go through with you, the moments in time that they have with you that help them become a super fan and can get them to wear your merch, to promote your brand without you even asking, to offer incredible support when you need it, to give you that positive, constructive feedback that nobody else will. This is the benefit of having fans, and it's how you future-proof your brand. So here's how it all begins. It begins at the bottom here. Your casual audience. These are people who find you kind of randomly. They might come across a social media post or some video of yours, or maybe a link on social, or a link in a search engine. They don't necessarily know who you are or why you are even here to help them, but they found something of yours and they like it. And it's our job here to convert them from a casual audience member to an active audience member. And that's really important. That's where they start to kind of join in on the conversations, feeling like they're a part of something a little bit, subscribing, following. From there, we want to convert them into a connected community. And this is where Circle comes into play. This is where people are not just connecting with you, and they're not just connecting, they're not just having conversation with you, you're not having conversation with them, they're connecting with each other. There's an identity as a fan of blank, right? This is where you get your Swifties. This is where you get your Stays if you're a fan of Stray Kids. This is where you get your Beliebers if you're a fan of Justin Bieber, right? An identity is formed when there is a group of people who believe in something, who share those same experiences and share those same values, right? And we can step up and become that person or group or brand that creates that safe space where they come in. And then from here, this is where they then can become super fans, right? Now, what's really interesting about this is, if we were to flip this around, this might look very familiar to a lot of you. This is traffic, subscribers, sales page, customer. They become a part of a funnel. But a funnel is very soulless, in my opinion. A funnel becomes, yes, important in your business and in your systems. It becomes a way to automate a lot of things that might happen to help serve them. But we often remove the heart when we think of the funnel. And my goal here is to bring the heart back in, right? To convert this into super fans that can then climb up this ladder, climb up this pyramid. But gravity is working against us, so it does take a little bit of work and effort. However, this is, again, how you build super fans. And the beauty of this is your super fans will become your marketing engine, who can bring more people in, not casual anymore, because they're getting a recommendation from somebody within. And so super fans, connected community, active audience, casual audience, right? And when you think about it, when a person becomes a super fan, they're a fan almost for life. They've injected you into their life in some way, shape, or form. They wear your merch. They talk about you without you even asking. And it's why there are fans of baseball teams and football teams that have never won championships before, because of the experiences that they've had at those stadiums, through those wins, weathering those losses, and coming together, rooting against the rival team. All these things years later, because they had those experiences that led up to that, right? Which takes us to this quote. Superfans aren't created the moment people see you for the first time. They're created by the moments that you create for them over time. Say that one more time. Superfans aren't created the moment people see you for the first time. They're not created by the moment they purchase something. They're not created the moment they sign up for your community. They're created by the moments that you create for them over time. So we're going to start at the bottom here. We're going to work our way up. And I'm going to teach you how to do this, right? So casual audience, remember, people who've just found you, they don't know you. Why should they stick around? Well, let's figure out how to do that. And one great analogy or metaphor would be, if you've ever been to a conference before, right? All these conversations that happen with people that you meet at a business conference are very surface level, right? Where are you from? What do you do? And you have your name tag, and you kind of start these little surface level conversations, and it's very usual, right? And I go to many conferences, and it's always like this, until you find that one person who happens to go to the same college that you did, or they happen to also be a parent, or they also happen to share the same love for the same anime as you, whatever it might be. And all of a sudden, once you find that out about them, you're best friends, right? Or you stick with them with the entire time, right? You go around, you hang out together, you're having coffee together, you're having lunch, you're sitting next to each other at the little workshops. That's what happens when you find that you have these common connective tissue, this common connective tissue with them. So a great way to stand out and a great way to start to activate this audience of yours who has come across you is to add some personality into your brand in some way, shape, or form. Put you and your people into it as much as you are comfortable doing. And this is especially important today because, like, here, bring it in real quick. AI is here, people. We know this, right? And it's making the idea of information and gathering information so much less about the people who are behind it. It's just the quickness of it and the clarity of it coming from tools like ChatGPT, right? So the more human you can be, the more of a person and personality you can be, the more likely you are to connect. Because it's not just about the information anymore. We're overloaded with the information. It's the stories and how you shape that information into a story that's relatable. It's about connection and belonging. Okay, you're going to hear that a lot today. Connection and belonging. So put some personality into your brand. How do I do this? Well, at the beginning of every one of my podcast episodes, you might know this, I include a fun little fact about me. And I remember when I first started doing that, my mentors and my podcasting coaches were like, why would you do that? Like, people don't care about you. Get to the thing that you promised in the title and go into it. And I said, no, I think that it's important to connect with people on a personal and human level. I'm not going to talk for hours about it. I'm just going to share a fun fact about myself at the beginning of every episode. Whether it's the fact that I stayed an extra year in college to join the marching band for a 5th year, or the fact that I'm deathly afraid of spiders, or that I'm a Sagittarius, or whatever the case may be, I share those things. And it's interesting because people remember them. I meet them at conferences and they remember and pull out that one random little fact. Like one time I think it was at Social Media Marketing World. And a woman from across the room was yelling at me because she saw me and she wanted to say hi, but she said, "Pat, big baby, Pat Flynn, big baby." Big baby. I was like, this is not how you meet people. Anyway, she came up to me. Her name was Jennifer on her name tag. She's like, "Pat, I'm a huge fan. I love your show." And I was like, "Why are you calling me a big baby?" She's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I remember that one episode where you talked about the fact that you were an 11-pound, 12-ounce baby, which is how much I weighed when I was born." My poor mother. Anyway, here's some proof. Don't look at it in the eyes. It's a little scary, but this is like literally 2 days after I was born. But that's a little fun little random fact that she remembered, right? It was so random and just a little moment. So no, you don't have to lean into these things so much, but just be human. Talk about yourself. Okay, I'm going to move to the next slide. Now you might be asking, like, okay, Pat, like, how does this really help? Well, check out these tweets. Do we call them tweets? X's? No, we don't want X's. Andy here says, "I can't even watch Back to the Future anymore without thinking about Pat Flynn and SPI." Right, here's one from Joel. When he was at Target, he saw a figurine. "Look what I found at Target. When I think of Back to the Future, I think of Pat Flynn." Chris here says, "Back to the Future is playing right now on ABC. I wonder if Pat Flynn can sense it." And yes, Chris, I can. So the fact of the matter is, people want to connect with people. And this is why it's important both on the front end, prior to when people join your community, they get to know a little bit about who you are. For many reasons, that will be why they feel comfortable joining their community, because it's not just about the information that's in there. It's about the people and you who are leading this community. But then also within the community, don't just remove yourself completely. Show up just like they knew and learned about you beforehand, right? So the big lesson, embrace your weird. What makes you weird is what makes you awesome. I remember my son came home from school one day and he was mad. He was crying because his friend called him weird. I was like, "You are weird, bro. You are weird. And your sister's weird. Your mom's weird. Don't tell her I said that. But we're all weird. If you weren't weird, you'd just be like everybody else and you wouldn't be my son. So weird out, weird away." And that's a very important lesson. So embrace your weird. Have that become a part of who you are. It's exactly what's going to stand out. Nobody's like you. You are 100% unique in that way. And so why not use it? Now, another important lesson, we're still on the casual audience to active audience component of this. this actually relates to my wife and her love for the Backstreet Boys, because when she told me, like, I wanted to get to the root, like, how did you even fall in love with this band? Like, where did this all begin? And it began in when she was 15. She just broken up with her boyfriend and was going through a really stressful time. And on the radio, she heard a song, and she told me these were her words. I heard the song a lot before, but I didn't care. But this time, I felt like they were speaking to me. And this song was "Quit Playing Games with My Heart," right? Quit playing games with my heart. Yeah, that song, right? And the lyrics of that song very much speak like a 15-year-old at that time would speak, right? They're using the same language. And so that was the moment that activated her, because they were speaking her language and exactly what she was going through during that breakup, right? So if you can define the problem better than your target customer, they will automatically assume you have the solution. One more time. If you can define the problem better than your target customer, they will automatically assume that you have the solution. This is such easy marketing. You get to the heart of the problem and you speak the same language that they speak. Easy as day. Next, I got to take you back into time again. We're going to go into my junior year of college now. So I was in the marching band in college, and marching band and an architect, like nobody ever saw me in the fall semester. But in spring semesters, I had a lot of time. I only had class on Tuesday and Thursday. So I did what every college boy would do with all that extra time at Cal, which is where I went to school. I played video games. And there's one game in particular called World of Warcraft that I wouldn't recommend, because your family will never see you again. WoW, as they call it, and WoW is right, because I spent a lot of time on this. In fact, my grades began to suffer. I had to remove it from my computer. But I'm remembering what it was first like to start this game, because you log in. It's this like world that other people join in. You can select between Alliance and Horde. You join this virtual world, and within the first 5 minutes, you speak to a person, you slay a creature, and you level up to experience level 2. And then all of a sudden, like, you're getting Fs in class. It's that first little like win in the very beginning that hooks you in, right? And you see this a lot with a lot of games and stuff. You might be remembering this game, Angry Birds, right? This is level 1, by the way, if you don't remember. There's just one bad piggy on this building. It's like the worst architecture I've ever seen. And of course you win. You get 3 stars. And then all of a sudden you forget to pick up your kids from school. So I hear. So what we're talking about here is the power of small, quick wins. Outside of your community, when people find you, in order to activate them, help yourself by asking, well, what can I do for them quickly to get them to where they want to go, right? If you are helping people on a weight loss journey, it's not about losing 50 pounds. It's about losing that first couple pounds in a week to give them a little bit of energy, to tickle that reptilian part of their brain and help them want to come back for more, right? If you want to change a person's life, start by changing their day first. Right? If you want to change a person's life, start by changing their day first. Very, very important. So within your community, how might you get some small wins? There's some very, very clear and easy ways to do this. Onboarding is going to be your most important thing, right? Onboarding is when a person signs in, they come in, you have them do a few things. In our community at SPI, we have them go through an onboarding almost challenge to help them learn more about how this works and to get some responses from the welcome area and all that good stuff. Really thinking about those first wins, especially in a community. The last thing we want to have happen is to have people join a community, say a few things, and like not have anybody respond, right? So it's really important in the beginning. The first impressions are key. Small, quick wins lead up to much, much bigger changes, right? So that's that. Now, finally here, again, we're still in the early parts of this casual audience to active audience. This is something that's new. So a lot of you might not know this, but in 2021, I started a YouTube channel about Pokemon. I fell in love with Pokemon. My son got me into it, my daughter as well. And then they grew out of it. I grew into it even more as a 40-year-old man, opening cardboard with cartoons on it. And I started a YouTube channel. This YouTube channel is called Deep Pocket Monster, and we are about to cross 1 million subscribers, which is pretty crazy. We've had over 200 million views since, and it's kind of blown up. I've even built a relationship with the Pokemon company as a result of this channel, which is pretty amazing. But we discovered something last year by accident that I need to share with you. So I came out with a video called Complete Set in 151 Minutes. The name of the set was Pokemon 151 because there's 151 original Pokemon. Anyway, you don't need to know more than that. All you need to know is I created a video trying to finish this set in about 2.5 hours, and I failed. And I was very distraught about it. I like to win, and I like to win these challenges. It's always fun. People were like, Pat, you got to try this again. So I tried it again, and I failed again, and I couldn't believe it. And I said, okay, I'm going to walk away from the series because maybe this is impossible. And everybody wanted more. So I did a third video where I did complete it finally. And this series, which I didn't know was going to become a series, but this series became so popular that this video series is how a lot of people find the brand. So what are we creating here? We're creating a story arc. And again, it wasn't built this way, but a lot of people, you can even see how many minutes, there's more views on that final video than there are in that first one. And when it comes to the content that we create, a lot of times we create content in more of a siloed fashion. Here's one article that talks about this. Here's another article that relates, but it talks about this and this other side of it. And they're all kind of like spread out, and you can kind of draw lines between them, and they do kind of match the brand and what we're trying to offer. But they're not sequential. And they're not something that a person can go, oh, I need that next thing. When's it coming? That is the big idea here. We want to create our content kind of like it is an anime itself, right? There I am, right there on Crunchyroll. You can get it. So here's the big idea. People don't subscribe because of the video they just watch or the content that they're just consuming. They subscribe for the videos they want to watch. We creators often treat a subscription like it is a reward for the video they just watched. Hey, if you like this video, hit subscribe. That's not how it works. Rather, it is if you like this video and you want to see the next one like it, make sure you don't miss it. Hit subscribe, right? And this is where we're getting massive exponential growth, is by focusing on series, creating an arc that people can follow, telling a story, right? Very, very important. All right, let's keep going here. Active audience to connected community. Quick story. This was me in high school. And you might think this is my freshman photo, but nope, that's my senior photo. And to give you a little bit of perspective, a trumpet is 18 inches tall. So I was a short kid, and I got bullied quite a bit. I didn't feel like I really fit in anywhere, which is why I joined the band, because there were other nerds who got bullied on, and that's where I found my home. Now, despite that being my home, I had a lot of friends in the band, which was great, who were very tall. And guess what? They played a lot of basketball. And that's not a good thing for a short kid, because even though I was asked to, at lunch, to join them and play basketball, always got picked last, never got thrown the ball, never got a chance to shoot. So even though I was on the court, was I really ever playing basketball? No. And a lot of us might set up our communities. We might build the court. We might invite people on the court. But if we don't make them feel like they belong, then they might as not even will be there. This is where churn starts to happen. This is where, despite being connected in a community, they still might not feel like they're really a part of something. So the big, big goal is to make them feel like they belong. So this is, again, why the onboarding process is really key. This is why understanding what a person's going through is really key, and understanding those key languages that relate to the problem and the goals and the dreams and aspirations that a person has in their brand. Now, one of my favorite things to help people feel like they belong is to get them involved. When you get a person involved, they get invested. One more time. When they get involved, they get invested. So think of different ways, signature events that can happen inside of your community that can get them involved. We run challenges inside of our community. We do these quarterly updates where people can check in on each other. We have mastermind groups that makes them feel like they're a part of an even smaller core group of people inside of our SPI community. Checking in on them, having messages sent to them to make sure they're okay. Running events with other experts to make them feel like they're being heard. These things are extremely important inside of a community. A lot of times, and I've seen it because we're studying community, a lot of people come to us as an example for community and how it works. A lot of communities fail because they think the end game is getting them in the community. That's actually where things can start and blossom and bloom. And eventually, it's a lot of hard work up in the beginning, I'm not going to lie. But eventually, you can get to that tipping point where there is a heartbeat in and of itself inside the community, and it has a life of its own, right? Thank you, Adolfo. I appreciate it. But you know what? It made me a stronger person. Another way that I love to get people involved and show people around is to literally show people around. The factory tour. This is something that when you show people the inner workings of how you do what you do, especially inside the community, people fall in love with the community even more. Let me know in the chat if you've ever been on a beer factory tour or a chocolate factory tour, candy factory tour, whatever it is. You have a better understanding of how, yes, that product is made, but you also feel a connection to that brand a little bit more. So I would invite you to share more about how you do what you do. What other team members are involved? How did you get here, right? People love this. This is why shows like How It's Made have been forever running, because we just love to see how the sausage is made, right? And there's a lot of different ways to do this online. For me, when I began, it was through the means of an income report. I was showing people how to become an entrepreneur and what it was like running a business. So I shared my income reports and just laid it all out. What was working, what wasn't, how we were making money, what we were doing to lose money, and all the above. And it was very popular. Gary Vee did this when he had his Ask Gary Vee or Daily V show, right? That was daily and showed kind of the inside life of Gary Vee. And a lot of people got more connected with him as a personality. They just saw him as this sort of loud, obnoxious person for a while. But then when you get the daily insider view of it, you see how his mind thinks. And although he still drops F-bombs, you can appreciate a little bit more. Another way to help people feel like they belong is to literally help people find each other. One of our favorite things to do in our community is to introduce people to each other who we believe will be a right fit, right? It doesn't always work, but it's just like at a party, right? A community, your community is almost like a party, and a party is not everybody sitting in rows talking to each other all at the same time. You got groups of people here, you got groups of people there, right? And then you bring in this new person who walks through the door, and that's a very intimidating thing. But if you come in as the host and you say, oh, by the way, hey, there's Joey, and Joey's done this, and I know you've done that as well. Or, hey, here's Kathy. She's a parent too, just like you, of twins, and I know you both have twins. You guys should connect. Becoming matchmaker inside of your communities is an active thing that you can do to make people feel like they belong. A lot of times you need a little bit of that nudge. Now, it could be done on a one-on-one fashion. There's group DMs that could be formed inside of Circle as well. But an easy way to do this would be to @tag people. When people have a question, you @tag people so that it notifies them if you believe that they would have something to add to that conversation. A lot of times that will help a person want to log right back in and come back in and join the community and the conversation that's happening there. Very, very tactical and easy to do. So yeah, I also love the idea of running live events. Now, Circle makes it very easy, just like we have a live event in here. It would be something that I would encourage you to do. That, again, person-to-person interaction through the lives is something that's going to enhance that experience inside the group even more. You know, I run a lot of live events, from coffee shop meetups to little workshops, a lot of, I did bigger in-person events. This was at FlynnCon. I run events for my Pokemon channel now. We had 3,500 people in Orlando last year. We have 2 events happening next year. Having live events is so key, but doing it virtually can work too. For a while, every year I celebrated June 17th because that was the day I got let go. That was a let go day. We formed that as a sort of holiday, and my family, my young family there, was on with the audience to answer questions and just be live with people. And Circle now makes that super easy. And now we host live events, and we have all these amazing challenges and people who show up, and we have member-led events as well. Now we're even highlighting the members themselves, which is a amazing way to make people feel like they belong. Whether you highlight everybody or even just one person, that one person represents the whole. And so by highlighting them, putting a spotlight on them, telling their story a little bit more deeply, giving them the stage or the microphone a little bit, can lead to incredible fandom, because people see a version of themselves, a future version of themselves in those people that you highlight as well. One good example of something I recently did was I invited a few podcast students of mine. So we have a podcasting course inside of our community, and inviting those students on who have found success in that program to talk about their journey is amazing, right? We don't bring them on to say, hey, tell me why my course is the most awesome thing in the world. That would be not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is to capture that transformation and tell those stories. So for example, we had a woman, Dr. B, on the show, and she has a podcast about ADHD and living with ADHD, and she coaches people through that. And I invited her on, and I said, well, what were the biggest struggles of you starting a podcast? Why did it take so long? So she told a story about how, because she was 65 years old, she didn't feel like she had what it takes. Like, the technology scared her, and she didn't know how it was going to work. And then I asked her, what's life like now after, right? The before, after. She said she's in 33 different countries. This was just 6 months after starting her show. She was in 33 different countries, thousands of downloads, already made connections with companies. And she told us a beautiful story of how she puts a pin on a map every time a new country listens to her show. And it was amazing. And without even prompting her, she talks about the podcast course and how that was the reason why this was available to happen. So it's like the most incredible testimonial. I'm putting a spotlight on the community. Other people see a version of themselves in her, right? Anybody who's scared of technology hears that story and it's like, oh, I guess I don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to join. I'm going to be a part of this now, which is amazing. And this one episode accounted for over $150,000 in earnings, which is pretty crazy. And a lot of people do credit the guests we had on that show for convincing them without even a hard sell to join the community and join our course, which was awesome. And then here we are. So to quote the great philosopher Drake, we started from the bottom, now we're here. And naturally, when you bring people into a community, many of them are going to become super fans just in general. They make you a part of their life. They consume your content in a regular fashion. But there are some things we can do to nudge them along. My favorite thing to do is to create memorable moments by surprise. And it doesn't have to be hard. My favorite way to do this is something I like to call the what's up. The what's up is an informal, personalized, unexpected, just reaching out to say, how you doing, right? No other purpose than to connect. And I've learned this. I think it was Jordan Harbinger who taught me, he did an exercise with me. He said, Pat, take your phone, scroll to or go to your messages and scroll all the way to the bottom. Those are the people that you haven't connected with in a long time. Just reach out to them and say what's up, check in on them, see how they're doing. And even just conversations from doing that have led to incredible partnerships, reconnections, coffee shop meetings. That's a great way to know who you might need to go and reach back out to, right? And as he says, you got to dig your well before you're thirsty. If you're working on relationships when you need them, it's too late. You're thirsty, you're digging your well, it's not going to work. Dig your well before you're thirsty. So my favorite way to do the what's up is actually very easy. And this is very, very beautiful to do inside of Circle as well. You just open up a DM and reach out to them. And if you can, include a video of you too. I do this on social media every Friday. I walk the dogs and I spend 30 minutes going around the block, dogs in one hand, camera phone in the other. And I'm just reaching out to people on social media and inside the community, sending them a quick video message saying, hey, it's Pat here. Just thank you again for being a member. Hope you're well and wanted to see if there was anything I can do to help you. 99% of the time they say, I don't need anything. And thank you for reaching out. Like they're blown away by that, right? So there really is no excuse for not taking a few seconds to reach out to somebody, because those little moments are little moments that other creators are not going to do, that you can do, that help you stand out, right? So we talk about future-proofing your brand and your business. It's not even about the technology. It's about the connections that you make with your audience and how you lean into the people side of this, right? With AI here and everything that's coming, that's like leveling the playing field for information and knowledge. It is the stories and the connections that are made that are going to help us into the future, no matter what happens in that tech or what happens with technology or information, right? Because that information everybody has access to now in the pockets that they have. So how to future-proof your brand? Attract with relatable stories, right? Speak the same lyrics. Be personable. Connect with a sense of belonging, right? They join your community. That doesn't necessarily mean they feel like they're a part of a community yet. So how might you make them feel like they're a part of something? And then you can thrive together, right? And that's the biggest thing here. When you bring a group of people together, all that brain power, all that energy focused on certain values and certain objectives and goals creates something. It's almost like creating something out of nothing. It can only happen when you bring those people together. And we're seeing it in our community, and it's just the most incredible thing. And this is why we changed our business model from one-off courses to putting all those courses and everything we have to offer inside of a community. And we call it community-powered courses. And we're going to be adding more to that. We're going to be leaning into that connection piece even more in different ways that I can't quite share yet. I know a lot of my team is watching right now, and I want to share those fun, exciting things that are going to happen, but you'll see them. If you want to see them in person happen, we at SPI, we have a community that we'd love to invite you into, or at least introduce you to. And you can find that at smartpassiveincome.com/community. So I know this perhaps was a less tactical presentation, but I hope it gives you inspiration moving forward, especially as niche communities become more and more popular. I do feel like that is where the future is headed with just business in general. It is those who have niche communities that are going to not just survive, but thrive in the economy that we're leading into. And the beauty of this is you don't need 1 million people to create something incredible. And to finish up, I want to talk about 1,000 True Fans, which was a piece written by Kevin Kelly as I was getting started in business in 2008. This piece talks about the idea that you just need 1,000 people in this world of billions who share the same goals, same values, who want to join and connect with one another, who want to nerd out together, as I like to say. 1,000, imagine they pay you $100 a year, which is on the low end. A lot of fans of things spend way more. I can attest to that. $100 a year, 1,000 people, you have a 6-figure business already, right? And then you can add on to that, create multiple levels, different experiences, live events, in-person, digital. There's so many opportunities to connect. And the best thing to do is just learn that and remember that it's the human-to-human interaction that's going to win. That's what's going to carry us forward. So thank you for today. Appreciate you. There's a QR code one more time for our community in case you are curious. smartpassiveincome.com/community. I know I think we started late, so I think I'm right on time, Alexis. I hope that was okay.
It was perfect. Thank you so much. Every little bit of it, the wisdom. I love when you do that. Wow.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes. Thank you so much. Drop in the chat your biggest takeaway from Pat's session. One of the things I love about you is how 100% yourself you are. And you bring that to every interaction, every summit, every webinar, every conversation you and I have had. And I hope that you getting to see Pat in his zone of genius gives you the permission to be 100% yourself. I mean, and Pat, maybe we can close with you talking a little bit about this, is how you have fully embraced who you are and how that has actually been your competitive advantage. That has been your differentiator.
Yeah, I used to, here, bring it in a little bit closer. I saw people commenting about that. That's a new thing I've been trying, and
I like it.
There's a TikToker who does he's like, come here really quick. And it's just like, it's such an engaging way. I love experimenting and playing. And I think to your point, I just love to play, and I'm a curious person. I love to try things without worrying about failing. I have a book coming out next year that's literally about, that learning through failures. When I was growing up, I was so worried about what other people thought about me. I tried to fit in and tried to do like, oh gosh, this is embarrassing. I used to wear the same clothes as the cool kids because I thought that would make me cool. I used to try to talk like the cool kids. I remember even I bought matching shirts with shoelaces, and I would change the color of my shoelaces every day because I thought it was cool. Not cool. But it wasn't cool because that wasn't cool. It was not cool because I was doing something that wasn't me. I was trying to be like somebody else. And it was only when I realized that when I lean into what I enjoy and what sparks joy for me, what makes me smile and lights me up, I can find other people who are also lit up about those same things, right? It's how we've built a community of millions of people on the Pokemon side of things, because I nerd out and I don't care that there's a lot of people who say, oh, that's not for me. Okay, fine. Go find your version of this. But we here in this space are going to enjoy this together. It's a hard thing, especially as somebody who grew up getting bullied. But this is the importance of community, finding people who can support you for who you are and the things that you enjoy, and who might also enjoy the same things. So I think we all as creators have that ability to create that safe space for people in our community to come together. And what's awesome about this is it's not even about me. It's not even about the brand. It's about the people that brand attracts and how they can connect with one another. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and just am absolutely honored to close the show today for everybody. And, first of all, just a huge shout out to you and the entire Circle team. I'm just so grateful to continue to be inspired by you and what all of you are doing, and what Sid and Andrew has built. And then I'm so blessed to be an advisor and affiliate for Circle as well. Just, it's a rockstar company, and I'm just so glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Actually, earlier, for those of you that were hearing my story of joining Circle whenever there were some technical difficulties around Jasmine's session, and I talked to you about how I got introduced to Circle, it was actually through Pat. So the reason I'm here is because of you. And thank you for what you do for the world. You make people feel so seen. You give them permission to be themselves. And yeah, it's just always beautiful to be in your presence, in your aura. So thank you so much for closing us out today.